Hello and welcome to episode 118 of the Alfa Romeo Driver Podcast, brought to you by the Alfa Romeo Owners Club. I'm Guy Swarbrick, and with me this month is the club's long-serving chairman and friend of the podcast, John Griffiths. Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, Guy.
So the last episode that we put out was our little bit unusual between Christmas and New Year episode, where we pulled together some highlights from past podcasts and use that as a way of me avoiding having to record a podcast over Christmas and New Year.
Why not?
And I chose a couple of the early episodes where we'd met members of the board and they talked about some of the cars they'd owned and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when I was looking through those recordings, it suddenly occurred to me that we'd never done you. We did a very early podcast talking about detailing.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the highest listened to ones, isn't it?
Yeah, you love to think that. But the Meet the Board ones are. I mean, they're very popular, and I don't really understand why we didn't catch you first time round. So nearly 6 years later, it's probably a good chance to just have a chat about you and your involvement in the club and
sure.
And all of those good things. And the way we usually start this, and the longer people have been in the club, the longer this takes.
Yeah.
Is to talk about some of the cars you've owned. So we'll talk about your involvement in the club later for the last 3 hours of the podcast. But so how did you get into Alfas initially, and then a little bit about some of the cars you've owned?
Sure, yeah. Because I was knowing that we were going to do this, obviously. I was thinking about various things to cover, but, Alfa Romeos have about taken over my blinking life. Since being a young guy trying to persuade my dad to buy an Alfa Sud in the 70s as a little boy, and that failed, sadly. I've had an interest in them, I really have. And I used to love seeing Alfetas, GTVs flying around, and always thought they were incredibly exotic. But I loved raspy Alfa Suds, used to hear them around all over the place, in the bright colours in the early 70s.
For non-Alfa owners, that was raspy, not rusty.
Yeah, 100% raspy. There was no rust back then. Well, not until about 1976, maybe. But initially. And, it was a happy accident that got me into actually owning one. I'd had Fords initially, a Mark II Escort that'd probably be worth 70 grand today. At the time, it was worth about 700 quid if you were lucky in the 80s. But I used to enjoy motor racing right from the 70s and going with my dad. And met my eventual to be wife, Maria, going motor racing. And we went to our local circuit, Mallory Park. I remember a lovely Sunday afternoon, quite late on, and it was the Alfa Romeo Championship there. It happened to be on the bill. And there was this field of 36 or so Alfa Suds buzzing round and battling. And we thought it was great. I thought, blimey. Got a Capri at the time, a yellow one. It was flipping awful. I loved it because it was vaguely professionals, if you know what I mean. But it was awful to drive. And seeing these things got me quite excited. And by pure chance, I saw a red Series 2 for sale around the corner from where I was living at home. And went to see it with Maria. And we thought, oh, wow, look at this. Rev counters, headrests, 4 headlights, spoilers. It was like, wow. Little bits of rust, a few bits, because this is mid-80s, of course. But literally drove it up the road, and I've used this in many a conversation. And it was literally the first corner. It went round on rails. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. That was it. Deal was done. I think I had to borrow 100 quid off Maria, and she reminds me continually about that, for nearly 40 years later.
You must have earned that back in car washing since then.
Maybe, yeah, I should have. Absolutely. That's a good one for me to use, actually. But yeah, it does come up now and again still. But, that was really it. So that got us into the car, which then got us into the club. So I'll stay on that bit, Guy, before I go to launch into the other cars. But we just happened to see, I think it was a local advert. It was somewhere I saw it, that the Alfa Romeo Owners Club was at Stanford Hall, which is only 10 miles from me in Leicestershire. And we went along in 85 and joined this line of Alfa Suds. And it was just brilliant. This is amazing. Loved it. Absolutely loved it from day one. And I could immediately chat to other Sud owners. And then we saw these fields of wedgy GTV 6s that I adored, and these strange cars that looked a bit old with loads of chrome on, which, I learnt were Bertonis and 2600s and what have you. And then there were the quirky new ones in there as well. It was just fab. And kept going back. And to be frank, I think I've missed one since 1985, which is phenomenal. And it's been brilliant to get involved with them, but we can come on to that. So cars wise, that first had lasted a couple of years. We got married. It was the car we had when we got married a couple of years after buying it. It was getting a little bit rusty, so it had to be another Alfa Sud. Found a black one, a Series 3 1.5 Ti. Looked amazing. It was one of those cars bought on a wet night, though. Not the best idea. It drove fine, but I soon discovered challenges with it, and then was working with a guy at work who, I know that car. That was owned by XYZ. I've forgotten his name now. I used to use it for nighttime rallying, did you know? Sort of, what? And so that's why it was so quick, because it was overjetted.
Never even look at the bit where it said never raced or rallied on the ad.
It's like back in Auto Trader when it was a grainy grey advert. No, I was just pleased it was in my budget in Nia and it was black. Anyway, loved that car, but it had to go because it was a little bit getting a bit rattly, and somebody bought it who loved it. We then had developed a passion for wedgie cars, and Alfa Sud Sprint Green Cloverleaf followed that, which felt like a rocket with 105 horsepower and green carpets and everything. God, I loved that car as well. Really, really good. Unfortunately, so did somebody who was uninsured like it. He got a bit too close to it and bashed the back end in on it. So insurance was a bit tight, and I stayed a club member, but got into a great deal on another car. I won't go into it. That we kept for a while, but it was a bit soulless. Vauxhall Cavalier. Shame. It was too good a deal to miss through work, but I kept that a year. And then I'd always got a hankering, again, going to the racing series on the new Alfa 33 1.7 Veloce with its checked seats, and saw one for sale that was a year and a bit old. Fell in love with that as well. So we were into a 33 then for a few years. And that's when Maria and I had our son David. So I've got some photos of him at Stanford Hall next to my 33 at the start of the day, and he's in his pram, so you can't actually see him, but you can see the 33. So there's a link up there going through with Cars and Club. By then, yes, I was attending events, and actually around 1990, I'd not been asked to join the board at that time, but I was helping out with the guys that were running the event there. So as the man that was local to Stanford Hall, I was opening the trade gate because I was nearest and stood there and greeting the traders as they came in and set their wares up there. That's how I was starting it anyway.
Taking your pick of stuff as they set up.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. To be fair, yeah, we could almost get onto that. So we began to attend the local section around that time as well. And Richard Isker was running the Central Midlands, and there were 8 or 10 of us that would meet regularly at a hotel. It was really early days for sections for us, but we used to enjoy doing the odd thing. But mainly it was a pub meet. But the guys that were there were really passionate about boxer engine cars in particular. So we used to go whizzing up and down the A46 between Leicester and Nottingham together, seeing how fast we could make them go, dodging the coppers.
59 on the single carriageway bits.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes 60.
Bits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you'd stop, yeah. Exactly. Anyway, that love of the 33 that had horrendous torque steer, it was great. I really enjoyed it. But again, I needed absolute reliability for work as well. So traded that for a 33 1.7 IE that was just a year old, got loads of toys on it. And that was a great car, kept it for 4 years. Now that was around the time, 1993, 94, when 155s were racing, of course. 94, I was still helping out at events with the club and our section, but spent a lot of that year, occasionally with Maria, but with a gang of mates following the British touring cars around the country. So, and DTM and ITC when they came over, of course, with the amazing 155, still probably my favourite racing car. I've got a picture behind my head with a load of 155s on. Absolutely adore them.
I've got that picture sitting here waiting to go up on the wall.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it was via a Facebook ad, no doubt. That's how I spotted it. But yeah, it's great. So yeah, anyway, got into couldn't quite push to a brand new one, but an X-Demo 155 Twin Spark Sport Pack that looked just like Gabriele Tarquini's. And I was so tempted to buy graphics for it. Black alloys, the spoiler kit, and I put little Speedline stickers on the alloys and a DTM exhaust with a twin upswept. So it really looked the part. It was only 1.8 though, 126 bhp. So I had to rev it everywhere. But I absolutely loved the thing. About 3 years with that car. And that was around the time some of the guys guys in the club were saying, you really ought to step up that local section you're in, Central Midlands, because Richard Isker was stepping down. I'd gone to the club general meeting that was near Leicester with our section and really got enticed to start the section up again. So with the 155, the fresh new car, as it were, with Maria, we reformed as we were called, Central Midlands then, out of Leicester, and we had about 60 people along. And that's where I got to really meet people like Chris Saville, Jim Talbot, latterly Stuart Taylor as well, and Ken Carrington, you name it. As we got going with organising that section, we've steadily grown. Back to cars, and again, I'll come back to that section business too, but following 155, 146 Ti, brand new car, parallel import. So, that's pushing the budget, but got this lovely car with loads of extras on it and sunroof and all that. And the variator went about after about 12 months, but so I got to deal with Alfa GB, as I think they were called then, in my local dealer. But because with the closeness of the club, they really helped sort it out because it was just out of the initial warranty. But
right.
they got it all sorted for me. I thought, this is fantastic doing stuff with the club. Great car. But of course, then I was very close with the dealership in Leicester, and I remember going to the 156 launch in 98 and seeing the covers come off them. I'd seen images of them and I immediately fell in love. So that was always the target car then to get in a 156. And I saw, I think it was Ed McDonough driving a 156 Sport Wagon then, 2000-ish, and fell in love with a 156 Sport Wagon. And we'd got 2 kids by then, got daughter Hannah as well. So the practicality helped. So 156 Sport Wagon, silver, red leather, adored the thing. Again, it's an absolute lovely car to drive, practical with it, looked amazing. Used to get lots of admiring glances and conversations with people too. And of course, that was into racing then after the 155s. What to replace it with? It was coming to 3 years, and I liked to change my new cars at 3 years, such was depreciation and deals you could do. And being friendly with Reg Vardy, Alfa Romeo in Leicester, saw the 159 was just about to come out, but I was watching the 156s racing in the European Championships and coming to Silverstone and Donington too. And there was this TI model that came out with these amazing 17-inch alloys and Momo seats and red. Had to have that. It was diesel because that was the fashion, and it was much cheaper and low in torque. It was great to drive. I enjoyed it. Had to put it with a bit of smoke coming out the back. Benefit of hindsight, maybe would have been better going with a petrol and pushing to a V6, but young families doesn't add up. But what a super car. Sold that one. Later, again, in the section, somebody spotted it for sale 2 years later. So it was 5 then. And somebody had nailed a Fast and Furious boot spoiler on it and added a rather crazy pizza registration plate on it. So that was sad. We wanted to hunt it down and kind of shoot the thing, put it out of its misery. But it was a good car. It was very stylish. And again, you'll see a little pattern here. The GT had come out in 2004. And again, I'd gone to a dealer launch with the club and got to sit in it, fell in love with the thing immediately. Ended up ultimately getting a GT Blackline with the Q2 diff. Fabulous machine. That was around the time Alfa Romeo were doing they called it the Cloverleaf Club, and it's when we could drive cars on track on circuits. So with friends, again, in the section, we'd often go to circuits as far afield as Croft, Alton Park, etc., to drive the new range. And it was brilliant to drive my car, a GT Blackline Q2 that wasn't mine, and thrash the living daylights out of it round a circuit with an instructor. And I remember at Croft, it's slightly damp morning, being a bit overconfident with it because I'd got one and nearly crashed it. But first corner, it went very sideways and he grabbed the wheel. I calmed down, carried on enjoying driving it. I know the cars during the day, and I think thanks to that embarrassment, I think I got either the morning's driver of the day or the afternoon's driver of the day. So that I felt quite proud of that. I don't know what the opposition was like, but hey,
our ownership history had been remarkably similar up until that point.
Right,
and it was a Cloverleaf Club day that I first drove a 939 Spider.
Right.
So it's kind of that's where they diverge.
Oh, there you go. So yeah, I again with the 2 kids and it being the main car, well, we had Fiats and what have you, needed the practicality. And around that time, I really liked the look of the Brera and Spider and enjoyed driving them as well. But I enjoyed the coupe style of things. And time was going. I have a knack of buying a car just before there's a facelift that I didn't know about and I ought to, or there's a replacement. There's a bit of a pattern of that in my life too. But hey, Yeah, I got over that eventually, and we ultimately replaced. I'd got the GT. We ultimately replaced Maria's string of Fiats. I think it was a Fiat Punto Sporting of a few years old with a brand new Mito Veloce in bright yellow, car she adored, and we kept as her car and the family run around for 8 years, would you believe? Buying that from Paul Jones, well known in the club from Nottingham, where we had Chris Variava as the dealership. Paul was amazing as a guy that rang me up as the local section secretary saying, "Hi, I'm a dealer. Can we get together and do stuff?" And I thought, what's he after? But that's been nearly, a 17 plus year relationship with Paul, and really building well with local dealers, or retailers as we should call them. But that Mito was fab, and I still got to 8 years old, a bit problematic, and Maria still, she literally had tears in her eyes when it went, even though she got a lovely shiny bright yellow Abarth in its place.
That's the other parallel connection, because my wife had a yellow Punto Sporting.
Oh, there you go.
Which she replaced with a yellow 500, which we've still got. So we've got an 09 plate 500. Yeah. Purely because she can't find another car she likes in a nice vivid yellow.
Yeah. So Maria adored the yellow Abarth, going a bit off tangent, because it was so fast and fun and spec'd as she wanted it, but she didn't enjoy being raced. It was a magnet. The Mito wasn't like that. It was seen as maybe a bit classier. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not slagging off Abarths. I love them. We've owned two. We actually replaced the yellow Abarth with a blue Abarth that everybody thought was a 500, but it was a little rocket ship. But anyway, we'll come back to that strand in the family tree, as it were. Mito Veloce was super. Again, I was through my work, I was doing quite a lot of miles at that time, doing computer stuff around the country. Diesel made sense, so we got a brand new Giulietta Veloce, an early one, 2011 plate. It was one of the first in Alfa Red with the big 18-inch alloys. Quite a good spec on it, thanks to Paul helping through the dealership. 45,000 miles in that in 2 and a bit years. Didn't miss a beat, bar brake pads and fuel. Really, really good car. It's still going, I believe, when I did a check. It's well over 100,000 miles now. I think I sold it in 2014. Replaced that with another Giulietta. It was a 175 TCT diesel, 2 litre, but the 1750 Veloce just came out after it was delivered, and typical. And I stopped doing the miles. So that was, I wish I'd held on a bit, but that's life, isn't it?
Well, I had the 1750 remapped to 300 horsepower. You'd have hated it. You would have hated it.
You liar. You liar. Again, the Sportiva was in that fantastic mid-blue metallic anodizzato that was later called Cobalto. Beautiful colour. It was one of the very first in the country like that. And it had got the auto, so it got rid of the left foot ache as well. Really, really enjoyed that car for another 3 years. Then as things developed, we knew the Giulia was coming along. Driving the Giulia in 2016 at the Millbrook Proving Grounds, I got in a diesel first, and it blew me away with the steering, the feedback, the feel, the ride, and the general performance. It had paddle shift, the steering, the way you think them round corners. Utterly fell in love with it. And again, it was a time when you're going to have to be going to Edinburgh a fair bit, John. So, and I was contracting, so I had to buy the car myself. So I got a 2 litre diesel version, 2.2 litre Speciale turbo diesel, and again about 4 months after that arrived, don't need to do the business miles, great, so bought the wrong car again, but delighted in that car's still very much alive as well, well over 100,000 miles. It was lovely metallic pale grey with red leather, and ticked a good few boxes on that for reverse camera and paddles and everything. Great car. Replaced that then with a new Veloce 280 2020 with a touchscreen and all that. A few more business miles in that. Parallel to that, we were running the Abarths at home and so on. But then COVID clobbered us. Well, everybody starts to work from home on Teams and Zoom and what have you. Business miles go out the window. I was far more home-based. I was looking at a replacement that was going to be very similar to that Veloce, just with a few more bells and whistles, but with the nature of the market post-COVID, the kind of monthlies on it were nearly double. Speaking to my son, who's a fanatic as well, and in that time of me owning the cars, we'd been enjoying Alfas together, and he'd replaced his first cars with a 2 litre 147 first, then a GT 3.2 V6 that's been a cover car on Alfa Driver, that together we did up. He was putting much of his earnings in when he was living at home go into that initially. But what a lovely car that was. But he said to me anyway, why don't you get a quadrifolio? And of course, I'd driven one at Millbrook, loved it. I'd been in other people's. I thought, I can't own one of these. I'll kill myself. But I thought, no, look, just behave, And sure enough, in 23, found a really nicely spec'd one, drove it again. It's another one, wind back to my Alfas, drove it up the road. But I've got to have it. And here we are, another 2 years later, I've got this lovely quadrifolio that's only done 20,000 miles. It's used, it's almost like Maria says, you're treating that like a flipping Ferrari, aren't you? You're barely driving it. Well, that's true in the winter, but I do all the miles on it, all 3,000 to 4,000 miles are full enjoyment.
I thought you were going to say as soon as you bought that, your job changed again and you were driving all over.
Yeah. Happily, it's not gone that way.
Your wallet straight into the tank.
Directly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you certainly notice that on a long run, but I can't be parted from that car. It gets so under your skin, and you just drive around its performance. The world's not big enough for the quadrifolio. You run out of room everywhere, but my God, what a way to go! And I think, as I've written in the magazine in the chairman's column for the February edition, that you can get great enjoyment from driving a really fast car slowly and appreciating that power that you could potentially unleash. In the same way, you can get a huge amount of fun extracting all the performance you can manage up to 69.9 miles an hour in an Alfa Sub 1.5 Ti or a Mito non-turbo Veloce,
Or a Junior Electrica.
Yeah, exactly. You're getting the fun out of the things. So yeah, there you go. Right old balance. Yeah, I think so. That's my ownership. I think I've not owned classics, but the joy of being in the club and an organizer of anything is you make a lot of friends. I get, if we made a list of Alfa Romeos I've driven, it would be 5 times that length, because I've been lucky for people to give me the keys at track days, even on the general roads, have a go in their car. For everything from SZs to Alfetta GTs, GTV6s, you name it. I love every minute. And what I love is feeling the DNA of the cars. It doesn't matter what it is. You mentioned Junior Electrica. Even that thing, the way it had sharp throttle and quick steering, that's Alfa Romeo, and I think probably one of the earliest I've driven is a 1750 round tail Spider, and the slickness of the gear changes, the control weights, the steering inputs, that's Alfa Romeo, and they look bloody amazing. That's the
fuel gauge that goes
all over the shop
when you're accelerating and empty when you brake.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's like my first son. Yeah, just the same.
Well, they've replaced that now with computers that forecast mileage in almost exactly the same way.
You got it. Yeah, the Julia does that all the time. Yeah.
In some of the other ones we've done, we've come back at the end to talk about cars you haven't owned and would like to own. I'm going to do that now because I suspect that when we fill in the gap on the rest of your club career, I may either run out of time or forget to come back to it. So,
all right, yeah.
Any either that got away at the time that you think, I wish I'd bought that now, or sitting here now, or sitting here on Saturday morning having just won the lottery.
Yeah.
What would be in the garage alongside the quad?
156 GTA. I got to drive the press car in 2002 in foul weather over to the NEC Classic Show. We had it on the show in 2002. Took my son along, who was about 11 then, and he had great delight during that show with his duster cleaning it. Sorry, he's got the detailing bug from an early age too. But I adore them. And my great pal locally, Dave Atkins, who, again, at a tangent, he had a property in Italy and introduced me, and keep going back to the same town in Barga, all through Dave. He's got one among his collection, and we had a great time last year, having a very long weekend driving around Wales, visiting various castles. Did a little write-up in the magazine about that one. But those cars get under my skin. It's the Busso engine. I have had that, though, through my son's GT V6. So, but I just love the shape of the 156 GTA with all its bits on. So I wish I could have pushed to one of those in place of maybe that diesel. And looking back, maybe that was a step I should have done. But how many things do we do inside?
As somebody who went to a showroom to buy a 156 diesel sport wagon and walked away having bought a 147 GTA.
There you go.
I think you did the sensible thing, because I lasted a year and a half and went back and chopped the GTA in for the diesel sport wagon I should have bought in the first place.
There you go. I've spoken to a few GTA buyers like that because they just get under your skin.
And that is a fantastic car. It's just totally impractical.
Yeah. And again, I remember driving one from Kedleston Hall, I think it was, that 147 launch, GTA launch in 03, and near Derby. And oh God, I loved that car, but I just couldn't make my figures and add up. And I was, just didn't have enough brownie points to push that one past a more sensible diesel at the time with my business.
Well, we're in lottery territory now, so budget's not an issue.
Yeah, so 147 GTA would probably be another one. And then look, going further back, I adored the GTV 2.5 V6 when that came out. I thought that was an incredible car. Not on the back of Octopussy, but the red ones I really liked, red over grey, the later series. And again, those are the ones that I saw at Stanford Hall back in 85, my first one when I took my Sud. And I love wedgie-shaped cars. I've driven them. I love them. I remember before I got my Sud, seeing a 2-litre aluminium bumpered one at a dealer and thinking, can I possibly own that? But the potential risks of a car in the 80s that was known for problems, I'm not going to use the R word. No, I couldn't do it. Today, a restored one, an Alex Duke GTV6 Special, that's on my list. I just adore the look of them. Let's wind back to the Vista Heritage, when we had them all there a couple of years ago. The silver one, silver over grey. Oh gosh, I was in my absolute element looking at those cars there. Fabulous. And I do really like 105 Spiders, 115 Spiders, S4s. And again, it's strange, isn't it? It's when you first really get to love the Mark, and even the Mark III with the rubber tail. I absolutely love them. It was the current car when I became so first immersed in Alfa Romeo. So there might be a metallic green Series 3 Spider in the Dream Garage as well. I'm going to step it up a notch next. An 8C Competizione. I remember organising the stand with Ed McDonough and the team 2008 at the NEC Classic, and we had John Pratt, who used to run Pratt's Garage in Stoke. We had his Alfa Red 8C comp that was brand new on the display. It's a classic show, I know. It's got to have been the car of the show. We were fighting people off it, and it was lined up next to a TZ and a TZ2 that Ed had managed to get hold of. I mean, I adore those cars, don't get me wrong, but with the general public, the 8C was phenomenal. So I adore them. I delight that I've got friends that own them, like Clive Richardson, and with his dark blue one, and it's fabulous when those guys bring them to events. Alan Greenhalgh's fantastic Spider that he brings to events too. It's brilliant to see them and hear them. Matt Spitzley's black one, we've had that on events as well, and others. So 8Cs I adore. Oh God, look, I'm going to keep listing these. Genuine ownership that I wish I'd bought in the day was a 156 GTA, 147 GTA, and possibly should have dived in with a Spider as a fun car when it aligned. But as I said, I'm so lucky to get to spit through the club to experience driving them. We do loads of local Kerbera track days, which are brilliant for experiencing cars in a relatively safe environment. So yeah, I enjoy Bertonis too. I've not really got that bug with the coupes. Again, way back, a great friend used to let me borrow his to do classic rallies, driving them, navigational rallies, not rallying with mud up the side. So I really know them, but they've never been on my immediate list. Love them though.
Okay,
there you go.
So we talked about the transition from the Central Midlands to the East Midlands section, and we could probably do an entire podcast on what you've done with the East Midlands section, which is, I think, it is a benchmark for other sections around the country. But I'd like to spend a bit of time talking about your role in the club nationally. So how did that come about?
I think it was all through being a keen helper at Stanford Hall initially, and then getting to know some of the team there better on the day. And I've named a few earlier, like Jim Talbot and Stuart Taylor, Ken Carrington, Ed McDonough at the time. And they could see my enthusiasm in growing a section. And I was seen as the young guy back then,
you
around 2001. Yeah, absolutely. And I used to see Michael Lindsay as well at racing events, and we know there was a bit of a hoo-ha back around 2001, but they did ask me to join, and I did get voted in. And initially, because of being the young enthusiastic guy with ideas for sections, that's what I got involved with, under the watchful eye of Jim Talbot at the time, still a great pal today. He's taken obviously a bit more of a backseat in everything. That was the first way in, and then I was always got an ear out for sections and registers, and for example argued that they should be able to have a regular budget to spend on things rather than them charging their own fee, because there's a danger then that people will pay that and not pay to be in the main club. So that's a win I think we put in around 2002-03. It's still there. You can request as a section secretary support to buy something, and
which doesn't have to be a gazebo.
So it doesn't have to be, but it tends to be, and lots of flags. Can't beat them. So yeah, that's how I got into it then. And then basically then events. I was part of the events team, which we ran with, and even getting the first club van in 2007 that was with the guys. That was terrific fun with Ed and more of the fellas I mentioned earlier. Got more involved in helping to choose the venues too as we moved through into the 2000s. And that just became more and more. So apart from, it was events, it was planning National Alpha Day, Spring Alpha Day, local stuff. Started in 2001. My great pal, Brian Alexander, who was the Ferrari Owners Club organiser for the Midlands, as well as our local chairman in the section, said we ought to do let's have a quiet, kind of more sleepy car event in the Midlands and move it around to different stately homes. And that's where Midcar started. And 25 editions later, we're still going. It's just grown a bit. Peak, we've had about 450 cars at places. And it's great that half of them are Alfas, but for a regional event, it goes really, really well. And it's been a pleasure to carry that on after he sadly passed away in 2019, but still miss him today. He's a great guy. But it's really, really pleasurable to keep that going. And then events-wise, obviously worked very close. Nick Wright, 2011, he came on board, took on a load of stuff, started to do a huge amount of events to learn the ropes, and here he is today. The miles he's been racking up in that events van's enormous, but it's been a pleasure working with him and people like David Faithful, yourself, whatever, on event promotion, event design, getting the volunteers together, getting local sections very involved in it. It's always a pleasure when, like last year's Spring Alpha Day with Dave and the team from Northwest, really took it on, followed the guidance and learnings that me and others had made, and he was able to run a great event with limited input from us. And that's really rewarding, actually, guys. So I get involved, but it's great to get others on board. Nowadays, at Bicester Heritage, what a fantastic venue that is. But it's great now that it's running so nicely with after the efforts and planning and ensuring we've got the volunteers there. It becomes a day where I can spend a lot of the time on the microphone interviewing people. The brilliant team is running the day, and I enjoy that a bit too. So events has been a big thing. Chairman took that on board and was voted in back in 2013. I can't believe it's that long ago. But nowadays, all my forebears I knew really well that had the chairman role, that really kind of ran things, as it were. The brilliant John Dooley was such an inspiration. Ed McDonough, known love so well today as well. They were fantastic at guiding things and running things. It's more of a collaborative spirit now among the team, and we've got a great skill set, that blended skill set. It's not John Griffiths' train set driving it. It's a huge team effort. I'm not saying Ed and John were like that, but it was a little bit more, we're doing it this way. They had to be at that time. It was the way things were done. But it's great being part of a collective that's delivering. And I remember sitting down in 2013, and one of the things was we really wanted to grow the club. And at the time, we got about 2,800, 2,900 members. And to see that grow through all these great initiatives that we've been doing, all while the volume of Alfa Romeos on the road, thanks to numerous factors, has gone from 100,000 to 75,000. So that's dropped. We've grown. I think there'll be a natural ceiling, unfortunately, in the world as it is, with cost of living, you name it. But we're doing everything we can to keep driving that along. Going a bit off tangent now, but that's been very rewarding. There's been other bits along the way I'll skip back on. Being part of the 2010 centenario for the club was fab, and being involved with the board around that time, organising special events with Ed McDonough and crew. That really sticks in my mind. And there's lots of engagements with Alfa UK as well. Growing that relationship's been really valuable. And I think, again, your good self getting on board and picking up the mantle of forebears, driving the cars, building that close relationship with the team as a group has been great. So, now to have Jules Tilstone writing in the club mag, I mean, we couldn't have dreamt of that years ago. It's fantastic. So, and to get to know him and to meet people like Cristiano Fiorio, who was Alfa's number 2 at the time at Silverstone, and to be given early sight of the new junior, the 33 Stradale, and what might still be the Stelvio and be okay being sworn to secrecy, but to be entrusted like that as a club, that's tremendous to see how we've grown it as a club.
I'm still kicking myself for not realising he was Cesare Fiorio's son, and all those connections to Lancia's rallying in the 70s and 80s.
Do you know? And latterly he was behind the DTM effort in 155s. I didn't know that at the time. No, we could have had him at the corner over all of that. I'm sure. Give us the insight. But lovely guy. But that's been tremendous anyway. And I've been in the role for some time now, but it's brilliant working with such great people, meeting so many people.
Well, and I think one of the things that I've been very conscious over the 8 years or so I've been involved with the magazine and the management team is the kind of constant evolution and the sense that it's working really well, but there's always room for improvement. So just wanted to kind of sign off with your thoughts on where the club goes next.
Gosh, you could have given me that as a pre-warning. I think there's so many challenges externally. Going on about cost of living, electrification, road charging, all these negatives you hear about. But there is still a massive core of car fanatics in the world, and I think there always will be. So my feeling is we've got to really concentrate on the classics, that core that will be there. And I'm talking about cars even like my son's becoming classics. It's 21 years old, but really being a classic. Julia's before they went connected that could potentially cause real electrical problems in 10, 15 years' time. Really ensuring that the club's there to maintain those, but at the same time, ensuring we're looking after new buyers of the very modern vehicles that are coming. So we've always tried in the years I've been involved to encompass anything that's Alfa Romeo. We introduced the modified register. We've looked at expanding the demographic in general with Alfa Female, etc. We're trying to look after modified. We're trying to look after the real old stuff, the vintage stuff.
And the youngsters,
we've got to continue that. And the youngsters, the brilliant guys with the Mito register, for example, is a super example. Let's hope that in a few years' time, the juniors go into a similar bracket and become super affordable. It might be more that the Giulia 2 litres take that space. I don't know, but we've got to be there to support an owner of any Alfa Romeo and think about the types there are and have a convincing offering. We want it to be, and we've said this for many years, if you've got an Alfa Romeo, be it a brand new one or a classic, it's absolutely logical to be a member of the club because you'll get extra benefits through our offerings. That's not just discounts and insurance schemes, but it's the great events we run as well. Track days, driving events, all of that side as well. Not just discounts on admission to places, but that may be part of it. But being a thing where we've got a great offering with sections so you can get together with like-minded people and do stuff at a local level too. Keep doing the good stuff. Think about what might be coming too.
Brilliant. I think that's a perfect place to end. John, thanks very much.
Great stuff. Absolute pleasure. And we didn't even mention detailing, but maybe another time.
I had a message on our very trendy Slack channels, or direct message on Slack the other day from Richard Murtha, who said, if you're going to have John on the show, just make sure he doesn't talk about cleaning cars.
And here I was lined up to talk about super resin polish and me Alfa Sud, but never mind. We'll do that another day. Thanks a lot, Guy.
That's it for this episode. We'll be back in 4 weeks' time on Sunday, the 1st of March, with our annual International Women's Day podcast, hosted by Alfa Female founder Kirsty Hodson. Episode 119 will be available to download from 1:30 p.m. from Spotify, Podcast Addict, the club's website, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere else good podcasts are found. Until then, stay safe.